Hello and welcome back to Automotive Tales. You might recognise where I am. I am back in the Field of Dreams because today one of the cars is going in, well, two of the cars actually are going into storage, but we're starting first of all with the Diplomat. So the cover is back off and Neil is here from NCH Autos, who you know we've used before. So he is stepping in to help. We're going to get this one away into dry storage before winter arrives. So this car has had a cover on, but you can probably see the moisture. It's starting to dry off now because the cover's been off sort of 10-15 minutes. But when we whipped that cover off, there was definitely condensation and moisture underneath it, which is why these things don't need to stay out any longer than necessary. And because we've had quite a lot of heavy rain, just trip over stuff. As you can see on here, this is like less than a week's worth, and we've got a puddle growing. So yeah, time to get some of these out of the elements and into storage. And of course, if you are interested in them, as per my previous video, then get in touch with Chris because we're keen to get these gone before the weather sets in, because they don't really want to spend another winter out here. The ones with the lights on top don't suffer so much because the lights actually give them a bit of sort of lift from the cover. So this one behind me here, the cover isn't sat flat on the bodywork, so it's not too bad. But yes, bleep bloop below if you're interested, and Chris's email will once again be in the description for this video. There she goes. Got this fancy rig as well. Neil's got this lovely covered container because we don't really want people to see what we're moving, and especially when we get to the storage unit, what's being moved in and out. So it's quite nice to have this fancy covered truck, and it's got air suspension. So when he arrived, back end drops down, makes it dead easy to get the vehicles in, which is pretty cool. Okay, we have made it with the Dodge. We are now at it's an undisclosed location where I store some of my cars. So this is a container where the Rolls-Royce was stored before it was sold. You can see, nice, great big container. That was not from the Rolls-Royce. That was actually from my transit van, which was stored in here for a little while. So hopefully, this is the best container pretty much in the whole yard because you can back a truck right up to it. So the fact that this car doesn't run currently isn't too much of a problem because we can back up to the ledge here and basically just roll him straight in, which is pretty cool. I bloody hope so. The Rolls-Royce went in, so like a glove. Right, here we are, one police car down, one to go, right, Neil?
Yeah.
So
one more.
Let's go get him
now. Let's go get it.
Let's get on the road. So we are back at the Field of Dreams, and next job is the blue it's a Michigan State Police car. So you remember this in the previous videos, and Neil's already got it started. So on the button. So this one will drive onto the wagon. So this is one of the few, as you'll probably recall from the previous video, that isn't for sale. This is one of Chris's favourite ones, and it's probably one of the most complete police cars in the set. In fact, if you haven't seen it or you don't remember, I'll show you some of the cool stuff in this car. So it's got all of the speed trap kit. It's got the little computer in here, which I'm not going to unwrap. And it's got the siren and all of the lights and everything. And it's got the PA system as well, which is pretty cool. But I'm not going to deafen Neil by using it. So yeah, this is such an awesome car. Even the original Ford cloth for wiping the window. How cool is that? Right, time to get this on Neil's wagon. Yes, it will. Okay, number 2 is loaded, so I'm now going to follow Neil in the little Clio up to the storage unit, and we'll get this one out and in. A lot easier with this one because it starts and runs under its own steam, which is quite nice. Once I eventually found the keys, because as you know, there's plenty of Crown Victorias in the Field of Dreams, which means I had to go through about 8 keys to find the right ones. Okay, here we go again. Back the car off. Oh, sounds so good. I'll give it a second to warm up. And into neutral. And out we come. Right, I've got the Crown Victoria in the shipping container. Wow, it is close. It is really close. I have a feeling I'm going to have to go out of the window, so the window's going to have to stay open. But it does sort of just about fit. I almost got Neil squished in the back, but we're in. I wasn't kidding. I'm having to get out the window because it is tight like a tiger. Okay, I am back at the Vic farm once again because a couple more of these cars are going to go into proper storage. I know a lot of people in Johnny's videos mentioned about them being parked on grass. Well, we are rectifying that so they don't deteriorate over winter if they don't get sold immediately. So I'm currently in the fully kitted out car with all the lights and sirens that you heard in Johnny's video. This is going into dry storage now along with 2 of the vehicles. There's a bit of interest in another one which is going to stay here so that it can be accessed fairly easily. And I have put 2 in my own lockup as well, so they should all be tucked away with the exception to potentially one, which is the crash damaged one you saw in my earlier video. So, time to see if this one will start. That's a good sign. Oh yes, look at that. This is quite a low mileage one. This is 104,000 miles on this. I would use the lights and sirens, but I don't want to annoy the neighbours. We did it on the day and let them know it was going to happen, but they are very loud. Right, time for me to move this one out because this is going with Neil from the transport company, who is going to take this to his storage and get it all locked away nice and safely. Okay, we've got the spider webby one that was tucked in the corner. So this one's going next, so another one that's on 104,000. Lovely. That. So this is the proper iconic black and white police car. Unfortunately, with the lack of cover over the few weeks, you can see already how much bird line is on it, so it's all going to get cleaned off now. So Neil is here, NCH Autos, so he is he's picking up this one today and this one tomorrow. Like my new ambient lighting in the workshop. So I haven't fitted some new lighting, but as per the drone footage, you can see that the front half of the garage now has slates on, the back half not yet, but it has got this sort of lining on, which hopefully is waterproof because it is supposed to rain tomorrow, and well, everything is still out in the workshop. But I'm quite impressed with how bright it is in here. It's going to be almost a bit of a shame to put the slate back on there, but I can show you around what's been done so far. So you will see my new wall plate is in, which means the roof is not going anywhere. That's no longer twisting. At some point I've put some ties on that as well. And then anywhere where I guess it's a joist or purlins, whatever you want to call them, needed a bit of strengthening, we've just added an extra beam on. We've tried to keep as much of the original roof as possible. The stretchers are still in, but they will come out eventually. I'm actually tempted to leave some of them in. The ones that are in the middle of where the cars go will obviously have to come back out. But the ones either side of these A-frames are not actually intrusive to most of the stuff. This one here isn't intrusive to the half height lift here, and those ones sit right off to the side, so they're not intrusive to the cars going on the lift. So I may well leave those in place and just take these middle ones out here, so cars can still go up, because if you look up here, actually we'll clear those completely. So a bit of belt and braces approach. So yeah, minimal intrusive work. You see a couple of purlins have been braced or replaced where necessary, and the rest anywhere that was good has been left as it was. And then, yeah, felt and slate. One of the companies that quoted wanted to come in and basically strip the roof completely and do all of that with fresh, so they could then board it and put on these like fiberglass fake effect slate, which just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel like it would really be right for this age of building, because this really is quite an old barn. So while it has been messed around with, and obviously had those horrible concrete tiles on, which was the cause of the problem, I didn't want to kind of just put the newest fad thing on that in 20 years time we'll need replacing for a different reason, and go with slate. We've had slate on the barn. The previous owners did slate on the big barn probably 30, 40 years ago, and it's still pin straight, nice and clean. So clearly if it's done correctly, it will last pretty much a lifetime. So I'm hoping this will do as well. And then once all of that is done, I have down here, you can see these tins, I have lots of floor paint. So the idea is when I can clean all my detritus out of here, clear it all off to one side, I'm going to paint the floors in here so it's nice and clean. And then I've hopefully got something to quote this week for this gable end here. I'd like to plaster this gable end so that it's all nice and clean. While it looks quite nice from here with its sort of reclaimed brick look, it was clearly never meant to be an exposed wall. It was always meant to be, you know, I don't know, clad or dot and dabbed or something over it, because well, I'll show you. The state of this brickwork is snotty, I think is how I would describe this. So I want to kind of do something about this. And that something is probably going to be have this all plastered, so it'll be nice and smooth. I can probably do it with gypsum plaster. Slightly concerned this window is open. That's another thing that needs sorting, because that's gone rotten. You can see the bottom has fallen out of that. So we've got a company coming in to do some fitted wardrobes who can hopefully do something about this. Take this window out and repair it maybe, or just build a new one there from wood. And then with that plastered, this looks okay. This is the original lime plaster here. So I might lime wash that, white paint that, and obviously have my new roof structure up here. Maybe start stick some insulation in the roof, and then I'll have quite a nice, cozy, clean barn space. And it'll actually look like a proper car cave rather than just a shed with some lifts in. Wouldn't that be nice? Also, if you're wondering what these are sitting in the background, so these were the seats that actually they came out of my BMW E28 M535 I had when I made it into a track car. I think they originally lived in a Puma. And the other stuff I've been stepping around, so you might see there's a propeller blade for the back of a helicopter there. Some bits from an E21 323i, some E30 bits, a sump and a subframe, some spare bits for the E30 there, the rear window mechanisms, because they're quite hard to get hold of, so I found a spare set. I'm going to keep hold of those. And then just down here in front of me, that is a subframe from a Volvo C70 Cabriolet. Because it's a Cabriolet, they added in these solid bushers where it mounts to the chassis. And because it's a coupe, they have this little extra X-brace here. The reason I've got this is because this subframe is identical to that on the Volvo 850. But the Volvo 850 had rubber bushes in here and had no brace in there. So this is a nice tasty little upgrade, potentially for the T5R, that is sort of period factory, that strengthens the whole bottom end to go with the factory strut brace that sits on the top. So at some point that will go on the T5R. And while we're on the subject of random Volvo parts, there is also the other half of that, which is a brace that goes from that subframe back into the chassis, which is living here. So I've actually got two of them. So one of them has been powder coated and has had like a red oxide paint layer on it, so it can be powder coated black. That's actually for one series, long story, but this is another one of the frames that goes from that Volvo front subframe back to the chassis, and a box of all the bolts that go with it there. So yeah, that's another bit that will eventually go on the T5R, sort of a factory-ish upgrade. And there's plenty more other sort of detritus, if you will, kicking around my workshop, such as the exhaust from the Clio. So that's the old stainless exhaust that I never really got on with. We put the stock exhaust back on, so that still needs to find a home if anybody's looking for an exhaust for a 172. And the rest of this is basically a combination of Volvo and E30 parts. So you might recognise an M20 intake manifold, a set of grills from an E21 3 Series, brake calipers from a Volvo, steering wheel. So that's the original steering wheel actually off the E30. I had an M-Tech steering wheel off my old F535 that I fitted instead, which was a bit nicer, but I kept the original. So yeah, and then my beloved trailer, and as everybody has, a thing full of scrap metal that I need to take to the scrapyard. It's amazing how much stuff is easier to show you on camera when there's all of this natural light coming in, which is making me wonder whether maybe at some point I should put some skylights in, because this amount of natural light is lovely. You could work in here quite happily without the lights on. In the meantime, Dr. Nuff has been doing some more sketchy shit with a with the press in here.
Yeah, but I got away with it.
You got away with it. I'm concerned that there's blocks of wood. As he says, if it's stupid, but it works, it ain't stupid. So I'm guessing these are all the bits from a Land Rover gearbox.
Yes, they are.
Not that Land Rover, but the Land Rover that's going to be ready for summer, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which summer?
Oh, that's a question mark.
I think that might be a bit fucked. Good job we took this gearbox part, and a little clip that holds the dogs into the synchro is knackered. That wasn't that shape when it was in the gearbox. It took a bit of mullering getting it out. But yeah, I think this gearbox was definitely ready for a service. Because yeah, that isn't good. That's not too bad actually, it's not raised on there. But yeah, that's, that missing dog is not good. I don't know what's more worrying, the fact that that's broken, or the fact that we don't know where the other bit of it is. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.